All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. For some of you, I may be a familiar face. My name is Stephen Plocky. I'm a Senior Business Development Associate here at Midland Trust, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to you today about IRA LLCs, also called checkbook IRAs. And so this is a very powerful tool that can be a little bit confusing. And so my colleague Amy Ayers and I wanted to hop on today to help dispel some of the common questions or myths about checkbook IRA LLCs. And so Amy has been helping with the IRA LLC setup process along with me for several years now. And so I'm really excited to be able to share her experience with you all about this process. And so as we get started today, just as benefit to myself, if you could put a thumbs up or a smiley face in the chat that you'll see on the right-hand side to let me know that you can hear us, then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, thanks everybody. And as you all get familiar with this setup here on the chat screen, if you have any questions that come up as a result of anything that we say on this live podcast and webinar, just put them in the chat here. We're more than happy to answer those questions. That's why we do this for you live, so that you have the opportunity to ask those questions. And so we're excited to get started, and we'll go ahead and just introduce ourselves here. Now, as I said, I'm joined by my colleague, Amy Ayers, who's a compliance manager here at Midland Trust. Amy, if you just want to tell us, like a brief 30 seconds, how long you've been with Midland, what you do here, and how you're involved with the single member and multi-member LLC setup process for IRAs.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. So like Stephen said, my name is Amy Ayers. I'm the compliance manager for Midland. I'm going on my 5th year at Midland, and I've been working with LLCs since the start. So I've seen pretty much any situation, any structure you can think of. And yeah, so I'll be happy to help you guys today.
That's awesome. Thanks so much. And most of you all know me. I'm Stephen. I work in our business development department here at Midland Trust and a little bit of marketing. I've been here for 4 years. I've worked with Amy ever since I've been here. So Amy and I actually used to share an office a few years back. So we've worked closely together. I can tell you immediately, I've asked Amy more questions than probably anybody that she's worked with. So she is a wealth of knowledge, and you guys are going to be in good hands with her along for the ride today. Well, with that out of the way, let's talk about the reason why we are all here. We want to know about IRA LLCs, checkbook IRAs. You know, when we talk about self-directed IRAs, this is a conversation that comes up very soon after we talk about what you can do in a self-directed IRA. IRA LLCs is a special type of investment structure that is useful to many, many, many investors that Midland helps service. And we're going to talk about what an IRA LLC is, who does and who doesn't qualify, and some strategies that we see our investors use these LLCs for, all talked about here today. And again, if any questions come up, please use that chat feature. We're very excited to help answer any of those questions today. All right. So getting started today, let's talk about the number one question I get when I bring up checkbook IRA LLCs or IRA LLCs in general. The first question that I get often is this a special type of IRA? So we have traditional IRAs, we have Roth IRAs. Is an IRA LLC another type of IRA? And the answer is no. IRA LLCs are a special investment structure that can be placed within a traditional Roth, SEP, simple, inherited IRA. It doesn't matter what kind of IRA it is, you can hold it within an IRA account. So IRA LLCs are typically only held in self-directed IRAs just due to the administrative feasibility of self-directed IRA custodians to hold these. So IRA LLCs are not unique. They can be pre-tax and post-tax, just like traditional and Roth IRAs are. And so there's a lot of flexibility as to how you utilize this tool with your given tax structure. Victoria, I see your question here today. And so everyone is aware, because you registered for this webinar, at the conclusion of this webinar, everybody who registered will be receiving a recording of this entire event. So you'll be able to review this on your own time, on demand, fast forward, rewind, catch things that you might not have been able to catch initially. So everybody's going to receive a free recording as a thank you for registering today. So let's talk about an IRA LLC. And Amy, I might have you step in here a little bit in case we get some questions, but an IRA LLC is a legal entity whose sole member or members are only IRAs. So you have an LLC, and if you have a member of that LLC be an IRA only, and that LLC is funded only by IRA money, that is going to be an IRA LLC. So IRA money flows into the LLC banking account, and then you're able to make investments through IRA funds through that banking account. Now, as I mentioned previously, this is an investment structure for self-directed IRAs that provide flexibility and control to investors. We'll explain a little bit about what that flexibility and control is going to look like. So the question is, now that we know what an IRA LLC is, why would we want to use this? I mean, can't we just work with a self-directed IRA custodian directly? Well, the answer is yes, you can, but that might not be the best option for everyone. Self-directed IRA LLCs are available to individuals who have particular needs or strategies that are best served by this tool. And so, as mentioned previously, flexibility is the name of the game when it comes to IRA LLCs. This gives people opportunities to invest into strategies that require a timely response. So if you're working with a self-directed IRA specifically and not the LLC portion, there's a processing period of, say, 1 to 3 business days for a transaction to get completed, depending upon what kind of paperwork needs to be put out or if funds are available, etc. But the checkbook control feature of an LLC eliminates that waiting period. You're able to control that investment process A to Z as opposed to involving the IRA custodian. So this is perfect for fast-paced cash flow needs. So what this means is that managers are able to maintain control over all LLC operations, not really having to wait for an IRA custodian to complete an investment. And then cost savings. There are potential cost savings associated with multiple investments. If you're, involved in multiple deals at a time, the IRA LLC process is going to save you on administrative costs. So we're going to talk about that a little bit further. Okay, so Amy, I have a couple of IRA rules, IRA LLC rules here that I think it would be helpful for you to touch on. Would you mind discussing some of the information that we see here about the IRA LLC actually be considered an investment and what that means for our investors?
Okay, so it is still considered an investment. So you will have to provide those fair market values at the end of the year. And all of the vesting for the LLC will need to go into the LLC name. Also, you won't have to do, a question that I get a lot is if you have to do a state tax return at the end of the year. And since it's a disregarded entity, you do not have to do that. All you have to do is provide us that fair market value at the very end of the year.
That's right. Thanks, Amy. So fair market value, that's kind of like a buzzword in the industry that you'll see a lot. All that means is every single year, it's required for the IRA custodian to be provided with the values of investments that our clients hold. So Midland, when you sign up for an account with us, you're also saying, yes, I know that I have to send you valuations for my investments. The IRA LLC structure is going to be no different. The LLC that you have within an IRA here that then subsequently goes and purchases other investments, you're going to provide us the cumulative value of that LLC. So that includes cash in an operating account that you'll have, and it's going to be any assets that that LLC holds, whether that be real estate or whether that be notes, etc. One more important thing that you will need to be aware of is that if you are going to use a multi-member or single member LLC within your IRA, this has to be a brand new entity. Oftentimes, I've had conversations with individuals, and Amy, I'm sure that you have as well. I'll have conversations with individuals who say, hey, I heard that I can use an LLC with my IRA. That's great. I have this LLC that I've had, in the state of, Georgia for the past 3 years. I'll just finance, all of my investments through that LLC. Immediately, that's going to be a hard stop. Anytime you want to utilize an LLC to invest your IRA monies through, it has to be a brand new entity. The reason for that is because you are probably going to be listed as the member of that existing LLC personally. You're going to be listed as the personal owner of that LLC. And because we're talking about an IRA that's going to be involved, your IRA cannot interact with any personal entity that already exists. And so you will need to create a new entity with your IRA listed either as the sole member or one of the members of that LLC. All right. And I see that we have some questions coming in. I will be answering those questions near the conclusion of this. So in case we hit any of the topics that are being asked about, in order to prevent us from discussing it twice for the sake of time, we'll be answering those questions as they come in at the end. So fear not. Okay. So Amy, you often discuss many types of questions that come up as a result of holding, an IRA LLC. And a lot of times that comes up with the mundane details of this process. And so you and I spoke about this the other day about, okay, what are kind of like the frequently asked questions that you see individuals come across? Would you be able to share with us some of those questions and the answers to the questions that we see here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go over these first. So the first one is, can I pay for the setup fees myself instead of doing it through your IRA? And the answer is yes. So when you initially set up the LLC, it's considered an administrative cost and not actually part of the investment. So you can pay for those funds personally. Another question I get a lot is banks sometimes require an opening deposit. So instead of being able to just wire all the funds from your IRA to the LLC business account, they do want that initial opening deposit. If they do require that, we could do this in a few different ways. We could either just do a small deposit and have it sent over, or if you need a check and you're going to physically go to the bank to open that business account, we can mail a check to you in the name of the LLC so you can open that. And I think I covered this one already. So do I need to file that tax return for your IRA LLC? So it's still going to be reported under your IRA. So you don't need to do any kind of individual tax return because it's all going to be reported under your IRA. So you won't have to worry about that. And then some other questions that I get is going to be if you need to do like the best way to make sure that if there was any kind of emergencies with your LLC. So when you initially set it up, you do have the option to have an assistant manager. And it's good to have an assistant manager on your LLC just in case there is an emergency where you're not able to help with your investments, or if something were to happen and you need somebody to step in to help with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very important. Here at Midland, we have the option for individuals to set up beneficiaries for their accounts here at Midland Trust. But if you desire that LLC, instead of being folded in on itself and then distributed to its investors, if you want that LLC to still have legs and continue after you pass away, a co-manager is the best way to perform that. So thank you for bringing that up, Amy. That is helpful. All right, so here's what you need to know about LLCs when it comes to the setup process. And Amy, I'm going to have you walk us through the A to Z on the setup process here in a second. But here's some important things that I like to mention to investors who are interested, because oftentimes you have a deal coming up, but you're also interested in the IRA LLC. Can I do both? Can I do the LLC within my IRA and then have that LLC invest in my deal before my deadline? Here's some things you need to know in order to be prepared. The first is LLCs are filed with individual states. So you can have a Florida LLC, you can have an Illinois LLC, you can have a Washington State LLC. All of that, however, means that there is going to be variability with setup timelines. A few months ago, we were hearing that it was taking New York about 3 weeks to set up an LLC. In Florida, it takes closer to a week and a half. So there is a variability between different states. And so it's important to realize that, worst case scenario, it could be anywhere between 1 to 3 weeks for me to get my LLC set up. Not my IRA. It takes my IRA just 1 business day to complete the application and for me to get an account number. But the LLC component can take 1 to 2 weeks. Now, Amy works with a sister company of Midland Trust called Midland Forms. Now, Midland Forms is a company that we started recently to help our investors get started as fast as possible and as quick and as error-free as possible with the IRA LLC setup process. So Amy, imagine I'm just a client who's interested in hearing this. Like, I know nothing about the IRA LLC setup process. I've never set up an LLC before. Walk me through what are the things that Midland Forms is going to do for me to help set up an LLC, say, in the state of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to help you through the whole process. So first, what you would do is you need to pick out a name for your LLC. We typically say give us 1 to 3 names because there is the potential that that name will be taken in the state, and we don't want to tie up your investment if that name is taken, have to start the whole process over again. So you'll give us those initial names that you'd like to have for your LLC. We'll do the research to see which one's available for you. The next step after that is we're just going to send you the engagement letter and all the pricing for the setup of the LLC. And then from there, we'll file the articles of organization for you with the state. And like Stephen said, depending on the state, depends on how long it's going to take for that to get approved. And that's pretty much the longest process of everything, is depending on which state your filing is how long this is going to take. Midland Forms is very fast with their processing. It's just the state that we have to wait for. And then after that, what we'll do is we will do your EIN for you. So we'll have that ready to go. And then once the state approves your LLC, we are going to structure that operating agreement for you. And the operating agreement will have everything listed in regards to having it as an IRA LLC. That's why it's very important to have somebody that knows about checkbook LLCs, because we do have those IRS guidelines that need to be in that operating agreement, and we specialize in that. So we'll have that all structured. So that'll be ready for you. And then from there, what we'll do is you'll just go to your bank of your choice. You'll set up a business bank account. You'll bring in your EIN and your articles of organization. You do not need to bring in your operating agreement. And then you'll let them know that you just want a simple business account, and they will give you the funding instructions for your new account. And then you will send that to us, and then we will proceed with having funds sent to your new LLC business account, and then you can go invest from there.
That's great. Thanks, Amy. So that's a quick A to Z. And if that was a little quick for you, no worries. A recording is going to be sent to you about this. For the sake of brevity, though, I do want to continue onto the next slide here. So Midland Trust, we've talked about this a few times in the past if you've been to some of our previous podcasts, but we understand that the self-directed IRA landscape is a new one to most of you. Some of you have been clients with us for several years, and we do appreciate that. But for those of you who are new to single member LLCs, who are new to self-directed IRAs, I have good news. You're not going to go through this alone. Midland Trust has dedicated IRA LLC service representatives who are going to be walking you through this process individually. So when you set up an IRA, you get a name and you get a phone number and an email that you can contact directly as a point person for any investment questions that you do have through this process about getting started. As I mentioned previously, Midland Trust also has an in-house IRA LLC setup service through Midland Forms. Amy's a great point of contact. Her team over there is really excellent about maintaining those IRA LLC setup processes in a quick and efficient manner. And as you all know, Midland has other knowledge opportunities, other education opportunities that we will be putting out in the future. So we have another podcast next week about futures and commodities trading in an IRA as a part of our spring education series. But we're all interested in keeping you guys informed about the self-directed IRA industry, different investment opportunities and strategies like the Checkbook LLC and information like that. With that being said, though, I do want to just touch on some available resources. So a big part of the IRA LLC process is that you as an individual investor will be listed as the manager of the Checkbook IRA LLC if you decide to go that route. And with that comes a lot of flexibility, but also responsibility. IRA LLCs require you to be able to make investments within the IRA that comply with IRS regulations. So, if you have an investment that you're looking to purchase that belongs to, say, either a parent or a child, you should be aware that that's not possible within an IRA because of prohibited transactions. So we have a prohibited transactions guide on our website, midlandtrust.com, that will inform you about, okay, what are things to look out for as we go throughout this investment process. We also have information about general self-directed IRAs and real estate. Real estate is very common investment within these checkbook IRAs, especially if you're going to real estate auctions and other types of things like that. Midland Forms is the place that you want to go if you're looking to get started with the IRA LLC setup process. They have a handy button right on the homepage that says Get Started Now, and that's how we get the ball rolling. We take down your name and information in order to get started. That's going to be helpful in order for you to get the ball rolling on the IRA LLC setup process, because again, this can take 1 to 3 weeks depending upon the state that you decide to file in. So keep that in mind. And the way to get started is, of course, starting with the IRA setup process at midlandtrust.com and fund your account during that application process. And as soon as you complete that application, contact Midland Forms to open your LLC and start investing. So thanks again for everybody joining this. We're going to go ahead and field some of these questions that we have here. I'm going to go ahead and back up a little bit because we had a lot of interest in some different topics here. Amy, thanks for answering some of those already. And for everybody that's here, in case you missed it earlier, everyone who is attending right now will be receiving a recording of this entire presentation, and I will be sending you a copy of the slides that were covered today. I'm sorry for the technical difficulty of it being a little bit smaller than what we're used to. There's some things that are happening behind the scenes that made it difficult to make it large, so this was the best way to present today. That being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the questions that were asked. Robert, you asked a question about UBIT tax. This was discussed in a previous podcast, particularly real estate IRAs. I will have you go reference that. That's available on our YouTube, midlandtrust.com. You can find some information about UBIT tax there. Now's not really the best time or place because it's a little bit unique and not necessarily comports directly with single member LLCs. Let's see here. David asks a very good question. Do all funds going to the IRA LLC have to first pass through the custodian, or can annual contributions within legal limits be made directly to the LLC's checking account? Amy, do you want to cover that topic a little bit? Talk about the cash flow and how that's supposed to go within an IRA LLC?
Absolutely. Okay, so everything, all the cash that flows to the LLC from your IRA, it needs to go back to the IRA. If it's a contribution or a distribution, it has to go back and forth to the IRA first. So if you want to add more funds to your business bank account, first you'd have to do a contribution to your IRA, then from the IRA to the business account. Same thing with distribution. If you wanted to take a distribution, you would first have to take it out of the business account to the IRA, and then you would do a distribution to yourself. Same thing with any income that you got from that investment. If you wanted to take it back out, you can't take it directly out of the business account. It first needs to go to your IRA, then do a distribution. So you just need to make sure to flow that back within the IRA. But expenses you can pay through the business account. So if you had an expense, say it was for a property that you have, you can pay that directly from the business account.
Yeah. So David, a helpful way to think about this, I've been talking about this with clients for several years now. A helpful way to think about this is, okay, my IRA LLC has a single member, and that member is the only place where funds can come from into my IRA bank account, all right, LLC bank account, and go to if I decide to pull funds out of the LLC. So the IRA is an essential component in any financial transaction. Funds going in have to come from the IRA. Funds going out have to go to the IRA directly. So hope that helps. Contributions go into the IRA and then to the LLC bank account. If you decide to pull funds out for a distribution or a transfer, it goes from the LLC to the IRA. That should answer your question there. Thanks for asking that. Okay, Brian asks a good question. IRA LLCs are an investment structure. So Brian asks about that structure. Because the assets in my LLC might need to be sold at some point, should I have more than one LLC administered by my IRA? So this is a little bit about, okay, how do I structure this best? I will say this, Brian. First, you can hold multiple LLCs within your IRA. That is a little bit more common than you might think. However, it is not absolutely necessary. You can hold multiple investments within a single LLC in your IRA, and you're not capped at any value or capped at any quantity of investments. In fact, that's what makes the LLC so attractive to so many. And just because you're selling out of those and you're getting cash back into your LLC bank account does not mean that you have to create a new entity or have other entities within your IRA available. So all of that to say, no, it's not necessary. You could certainly do it if that's your desired structure, but a single LLC within your IRA is certainly sufficient to be able to cover that investment strategy if you're buying and selling. Okay, let's see. So Jason, you have a question about corporate equity shares as a W-2. This kind of ties into personal investments and how they can and cannot interact with an IRA. The short answer is this. If you are able to get equity shares as a result of a personal, like working relationship, say with a company, you've been with them for some time and they're offering you equity in the company as a result of working there, you can't really put that in your IRA. That's because you're earning that personally. So the answer is no, can't do that with an IRA LLC. But if you were to purchase shares within an IRA and you wanted to be able to provide us the valuations, as is your responsibility, there are methods in order to get those valuations. You would want to contact the entity that you hold the shares in and request that they provide a letter of valuation. So that's a common way. Moving forward. Joe, you asked a very good question about assessing real estate value. So again, as a part of the bigger picture, we're getting valuation questions in this chat because we discussed the responsibility of LLC managers, which is the IRA client, to provide Midland with evaluations of their investments within the LLC every year. Now, that's true of any investment that you hold in an IRA, whether or not it's within the LLC or not, but Midland does need the value of your LLC. So Joe asks, can the fair market value of real estate be assessed value by the county tax appraiser? The answer is yes. Moving on. And if I distribute real estate from the LLC to me, what is an acceptable appraisal method to value the amount of the distribution? There are a few ways that you can do this, but I will tell you this. We need an appraisal, a fair market value appraisal dated within 60 days of the distribution being taken. So if you want to take anything out of your IRA, whether it's property, whether it's private investment, whatever, we need to have some sort of valuation, whether through a third-party appraiser or a county website, that is dated within 60 days of that leaving your IRA. So that's how it would be done. Amy, I'm not sure if you can see Brian's question from 116, but he says, for the co-manager, can I set that up by just amending my operating agreement with the Secretary of State? Could you speak to how a co-manager would be set up and what documents are involved?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So if you're going to add a co-manager, it depends on the state if you're going to have to amend your articles. So we would have to look at the state and see if they require the managers to be listed. If they do not require them to be listed, then you do not need to amend your articles. But what you will need to do is you will need to do an exhibit on your operating agreement listing that co-manager. And Midland Forms can help you with that. It's just going to be an additional assignment on your operating agreement showing that we added that co-manager.
Mm-hmm. So very simple process. And again, Midland Forms really comes in to help with that. Baum asks, what is the benefit of having an IRA LLC? Baum, thank you for that question. This is my favorite question so far. The benefit of having an IRA LLC. Well, first, again, I mentioned this a few times, but there is flexibility associated with an IRA LLC. Well, what does flexibility mean? Why do I need flexibility when it comes to self-directed IRA investing? Well, think of it this way. If you are working with a self-directed IRA custodian like Midland, like any other self-directed IRA custodian out there, and you see an investment that you want to make, the typical process is, okay, get investment documents signed by Midland. Okay, so you have to send us the documents, they have to be reviewed by our team, and then they have to be executed. And then send us like investment instructions, such as wiring or check instructions to go send the funds out. Now, that process can take 1 to 2 business days, depending upon the complexity of those documents, right? But as an LLC manager, instead of making the investment through the IRA, but through the LLC directly, you're able to fire off any investment documents that you receive, if they comply with IRS guidelines, just by signing them yourself instead of waiting for Midland. You can also send out funds at any time of the day. You don't need to wait for Midland to send out the wires during business hours. You can go into your operating account, schedule a wire to be sent. So that is the type of flexibility that you have within an IRA LLC. But on top of that, you don't just have flexibility and adaptability in terms of the timing of your investments. You're also able to experience very real cost savings with an IRA LLC. And this is my favorite part about the IRA LLC. If you have 3 or 4 investments at any IRA custodian, you're typically charged per investment that you have. So if you own 4 real estate properties, or if you have 4 private investments that you hold within an IRA, there's typically an annual fee associated with each one of those investments. However, if you house all of those 4 investments under a single member or multi-member LLC here at Midland, you're only going to be charged for holding the LLC, not the individual investments. So technically, you can have an unlimited number of investments held within your IRA, but only be charged 1 annual fee. Now that adds up over time. So that's probably one of the best aspects of the single member LLC. Sure, there are new responsibilities that you as the LLC manager now shoulder. It's no longer Midland executing those investment documents and sending out the cash. That's now going to be you as the manager of the LLC. But those cost savings are hard to ignore. And so those are the 2 main benefits of the IRA LLC right there, Baum. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. James, I see your question. Because it's a little specific, I'm going to email you directly about that, about your title assets like that and payroll. Okay. Chris has a question about any future webinars. We do have the ability for you to join in on our webinar a week from today, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking about futures and commodities. If you go to our events page at midlandtrust.com, you can sign up for the webinar there. I will also be sending out an email letting everyone know as we conclude our spring education webinar series on May 17th. I'll be sending an email to register with that. So Chris, keep an eye out on your email in the next day or so. Okay. All right. I'm just trying to see any, trying to see if there's any glaring question I think would be of ultimate value to everyone, because I want to respect everyone's time here. Let me see. Okay, Casey asks, what are the fees that are involved in the setup? Casey, I'm going to send you a link to midlandforms.com to outline that LLC setup. I think it's going to be helpful for you to see everything that we say on midlandforms.com. So if everyone's curious, midlandforms.com is where you can find out that information. All right. Patrick asks this question. We're going to end the time here today. And if I didn't get to your question today, I will have either myself or a member of my team answer that question specifically to you. Patrick asks, what are the annual requirements for the IRA? Now, this has to do with the valuation question that we were talking about. So the annual requirements that the IRS has on IRA accounts is for the value of any investment held within the IRA to be provided by to the IRA custodian. So if you have, say, a property that you hold within your IRA, or if you have private equity that you hold in your IRA, IRS wants to know what is that worth as of the end of the year. So say December 31st, 2023, what was the value of that, so that we can, put, a nice bow on that tax year. So it's going to be important for you, Patrick, especially if you're going to be an investor using a single member LLC, to get access to valuation information. I just mentioned previously how you can get real estate valuation information through Property Tax Appraiser and through like their online site, or by using your own special third-party appraiser that you can hire to get the fair market value, assessed value of that. So there are options out there for you to get that value.
I'll
Amy,
jump in there too, Stephen. He asked, how about the state requirements? So the state requirements are, you are going to have to fill out an annual report to keep your LLC active with the state. And it'll depend on which state that you file in, how often you have to do that. There are some states that could be every year. Some states say every 10 years. So it's really going to depend on which state you choose. And the annual report is just basically saying any changes that you made for the LLC. So if you changed your address, or if that state requires to list managers, if you change managers, phone numbers, anything like that, they just want to make sure that they have the most up-to-date information on the LLC. So they'll just ask you to fill out that form, and then you'll submit it. Midland Forms can also help with this. So if you want to make it automatic so you don't have to worry about that, you can elect for us to do your annual report every year, and we will handle it for you.
That's so true. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Amy, and thanks for everyone who came in today. We are going to end it there. For any of you who asked a question that was not able to be reached out today, because we're coming up on 1:40 right now, for anybody that was not able to get a question answered, I will be going back into this chat. I'm going to be getting emails out to you individually that my team and I will be answering those questions. So thanks again. Please join us for our next webinar coming up on May 17th about futures and commodities opportunities within an IRA. And I hope to see you there. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay.